was to enable boot on our target volume, so we had to install either Grubber or Lilo. You had to get an init RD on there, and you had to run make init RD. And I'll go into that in a little bit. And then, obviously, you continue your rsync until your migration. And then the migration weekend, you do a final rsync, perform a cutover, promote the target system, and decommission your source. So that's the steps we went through. Okay. Our target server, we were using Blades with the P410i rate controller, and we had to use that CCISS driver. And one of the reasons why we had to use sysrescue CD instead of like a SUSE boot disk is our target environment was VLAN. And you can't set up VLANs from SUSE boot disk. I spent a whole weekend figuring that one out.
We had to find the version 9 disk just in their vault.
Download it, the ISO image, and then chuck it across the wire down to Brazil to the target's server environment. We had another thing we did, in order to stage some of the data, because we were transferring a lot of data. You're talking moving a whole data center. And it took us 18 months from one data center to another. We bought two iOmega NAS boxes. Each one had 6 drives in it. We filled them up, about 8 drives. We stuck one in the source data center, one in the target data center, and we would copy as much data as we could from the source server to that source NAS, and use it as a holding, and then on a weekend just chuck all that data across the wire to the other NAS, and then during the week, during the day, we could pull the data off that NAS in the target data center onto the target systems. So that came in handy too. And like I said, we used sysrescue CD, and I had to go through and look at all the change logs through the sysrescue CD website to find out which version had the CCISS driver. So setting up the disk structure, just fdisk on the device. We used LVM, Logic Volume Manager, and target environment. Standard PV create, disk-a-log create, volume boot create, and logical volume for each of the file systems. Root partition was not in LVM. Make FS. And one of our guys found out the hard way, made absolutely sure that the file system type, your source environment, matches your target environment, and that you use the right commands. Some of our source servers were using RiserFS, and some were using Extended 3. And you can change it on the target. That's not a big deal, except we're supposed to be doing like for like, so you have to get it right eventually. But you didn't pay attention, and one of the things we do after we rsync is run an FSCK to make sure that disk structure is clean. Don't run an FSCK.RiserFS on Extended 3 files. You'll nuke it dead. And unfortunately, that was a 2 terabyte file system. And we had to resync.
Wow. And there did that.
That's why you started early.
you've got your file systems created and formatted, then you mount them up. Under /MNT, because remember, you're booted from the sysrescue CD disk, and it's got its own RAM-based file system environment. So you just have to remember that everything's in MNT when you're doing your rsync. Configure the network stack, and again, we were using VLAN, so you have to do a vconfig, and your route, your gateway, and then start the rsync. And the way we did this is we no-hub it, so we could look at our output while it was running. Run rsync with just a couple of options. Telling it to tunnel through SSH. Progress, so we can see each file as it was being transferred, and stats will give you a summary at the very end, telling you what it transferred, how many bytes, in how much time, and all that kind of garbage. IP address of your source server. And here we're doing the root file system, where you're putting it on the target server. So MNT /, and then redirecting our output to this file.
That's right, a record rsync.
So you type that in, hit enter, hit Control-Z to suspend it, BG, Bravo Golf, to run it in the background, and then you can just do a tail -F on this file and watch the data spit across the wire.
What are your options? I've always used the long form of delete. You don't have delete as a shortcut option, is it? Because if somebody deletes, that's the mute. I've always did it as
Yeah.
--delete, so.
A is archive. I forget what the X is. B is verbose. Update. H is something to do with links. This is hard links.
Right, rather than follow.
E is to tell it which protocol to use,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
the
SSH. L is, I think, extended attributes or apples.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because you wouldn't want to, I mean, if somebody deleted the file on the original system, you'd want it to replicate it so that it's deleted on the target as well.
Right. And we did have cases of that where you'd have files that were deleted on the source, and you just tell rsync delete those on the target.
It's a temp directory then.
Well, and you'll see here, I never did rsync temp. There's no need to. Shouldn't be anything in temp that you need to keep transfer over to a new system. Should not be.
Unless you have developers that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Kind of like
Charlie,
people that say
you're doing
they
something
do
you're not
crap.
supposed to be doing.
Yeah, if you're storing files there in a modern system,
Now, we
Next
would
boot is
check,
gone.
we would check to see if there was any there, but
Yeah, because you've seen that before.
in this environment there wasn't, because users didn't have physical, they did not have
Okay.
access to the servers. They had access to their apps.
Good.
Even the DBAs couldn't log in. Once you're done with the rsync, you really should do an FSCK. Make sure your file systems are sane.
the X, by the way, is preserves your extended.
Sorry?
The -X option on that, that
Yes.
just preserves your extended attributes on the
Yeah.
file. So, like P with when you do copy.
Oh, yeah, for permissions.
All the yeah, the extended.
Okay.
Yeah, permissions.
The P in an SCP.
Yeah.
Okay, SUSE 9 boot disk, right? And the reason we had to do this is to be able to run Make Init RD, because the sysrescue CD couldn't do that.
It's
The-
gonna match the OS for the.
Yeah, the kernel, the Make Init RD builds a mini kernel with the drivers in it that are needed to boot the system. And believe me, that was required. The servers would not boot without a fresh initRD on it. And in some cases, I had to go in and modify the Make initRD. If you go and look at, if you dive deep into Make initRD, it's nothing but a huge shell script that compiles a small kernel with the drivers in it. So when you run the Make initRD command, you tell it what modules you need to have included. So file system drivers like extended 3, any RAID drivers like C to ISS, those get compiled into that Make initRD image. And then what happens is when you boot your computer from Grub or Lilo, it kicks off the initRD image, and the initRD loads up and then hands everything off to the kernel once initRD is loaded. So it's kind of like a two-stage process. The one extra thing I had to do was copy the insmod static file from the target directory to the booted operating system. Okay, after I did the rsync on the target server, I've got all the files that are sitting there from the source system. One of the things I needed was insmod install module. Okay, it has to be a static version of insmod, which means the libraries that insmod needs to run are compiled into that binary. Okay, most of the time in a modern Unix, your binary files that you run ls or df or whatever are not static, they're dynamic. They call and load up those library files as needed. Static files, if you do an ls on insmod static and an ls on insmod, you'll see the insmod static is huge compared to the regular insmod because it's got all those libraries in it. So I had to copy that over because when the kernel's booting up, it doesn't have access to library files yet. And in order to load in the kernel modules, it needs insmod. That make sense? Everybody lost? So I copied that over to the sbin directory, and then create links for the kernel images on your target system that you want available in Grub. Okay? Because a lot of times you have multiple versions of the kernel. And in this case, in our environment, there were 3 or 4 different versions of the kernel. We were doing as is, so they all had to be there and available from the boot menu. So you just make sure you got those in Grub, and all the links are available in not live modules and live modules. Run the Make initRD command. And here you're telling it what modules to include. So CCISS, JBOD, extended 3, where your kernel is, and you string out as many kernel images as you needed. So in this example, I've got 2 of them there. -L tells it where your initRD is going to be, and that version should match this version. So I've got 2 of them there. Where your boot directory is, so mnt/boot. send the output to our Mount Barton. And it actually doesn't take long to create init-rd images. Next step was to install Grub. And the only extra thing we had to do was, in the Grub devices list file, we had to tell it where HD0 was really.
Because it couldn't detect it.
Well, yeah, because Grub likes to think HD0 is SDA or HDA, whatever. It doesn't know about RAID devices. Validate the menu.list file that it's got the kernel images that you want. And then run grub install. Unmount the file systems, reboot, cross your fingers. Because rebooting for Reliant servers, whether they're blades or rack mounts, is not quick. It's slow. Because it's, you're sitting there watching it through your ILO connection from Brazil, sitting at home on a crappy network in Brazil. It wasn't fun when it didn't boot.
One thing I noticed you haven't talked about is you're moving, did you move the Etsy FS tab from the source box to the target?
And we checked that to make sure
Okay,
it was
model, okay.
correct. Oh, yeah.
Just want to make sure. So obviously, yeah, I've done this before.
Yeah.
And
There was a whole bunch of stuff we had to check. Okay, HPSA drivers, the new one, I couldn't remember what it was called. CCISS is pre-2.6. After the 2.6 kernel, they changed it to an HPSA driver. So
Is it backwards compatible with CSI?
actually, yeah. But
So it would recognize the older hardware.
yes. Yeah, it would have worked, but then it wouldn't have been the same as the source environment. Somebody would have caught it and complained.
Yeah.
Well, plus HPSA names its devices dev SDA.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'd have had to change way too much to use the HPSA driver. And here, I was talking at the very beginning, you know, we did a cat on Etsy Suzy release, it said /9 patch level 3. Great, we can use a Reliant BO whatever, generation 6 or 7. Come to find out, the kernel version wasn't coming out right. And the only reason we found that out is the target systems wouldn't boot once we put the new kernel on it. It just hang on a black screen. And after some digging and looking at the source server, I found the kernel version was wrong, and we had to back out the hardware and put Gen 5 servers in.
Oh.
And that's
Trying to find?
trying to find the Gen 5 servers, get them in there, get them installed, and we just got really lucky that we were able to get them, because that's the newest hardware we can go to with that version of the kernel.
Was that limiting just because of SUSE? Was it the same with the Red Hat stuff as well? Or they didn't update the kernel?
Red Hat was, the older versions of Red Hat were the same.
They must have had something specific to the kernel drivers, or it was the software that they were running was rated at that kernel revision or something.
Well, it's the hardware that HP puts in their servers, you know, they don't make the drivers always backwards compatible.
Yeah.
So kernel and SUSE 9 patch level 3 had the appropriate driver support for Gen 6 or 7. Okay, in conclusion, RSync can be used as a last-ditch effort to clone a Linux server. I got still had some NT systems. I think I had a total of 8 or 10 Linux systems. I told them we could not migrate because it was too old.
You could get hardware to work with it.
I couldn't get any hardware to run it.
Did you? That's my question. Totally mind it.
Could you like just virtualize those systems?
What's that?
If they were too old to go on new hardware, could you just use a virtualization platform?
We couldn't virtualize.
Customer wouldn't allow it.
Had to be like for like.
Had to be as is. If it was physical in our source data center, it had to be physical in the target.
Well, when you told them that it couldn't be done because it's ancient, is that what they would do, or are they?
That was up to them. They had to decide what they wanted to do. Was the app critical to their operation? Was it something they could get an update from the vendor for, or was it gonna have to be rewritten if it was, in-house generated?
Okay, from that standpoint then, did you have the same constraints on the network? I mean, were you going from say like 100 meg to a gig?
No, we didn't have the constraints on the network.
Okay.
As far as that goes. We did have to set up.
Well, I was just thinking of older kernels and drivers for NICs and stuff.
Yeah, no, that really wasn't so much an issue.
Okay.
The VLANs had to be the same. The environment had to look the same as far as firewalls and VLANs, but the hardware infrastructure was upgraded. Now, the target hardware for servers was upgraded as much as possible. Now, after we finished our migration, another team went in and did a whole server refresh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that would be certainly a lot easier once you get it into the environment.
Right.
That you have a bit more
Be a lot
control over
closer,
things.
yeah.
The hard part's getting it all over.
So it seems like you would.
Like I said, it took us 18
New servers get, and then just move the important stuff over. Like, wouldn't that make more sense? So, I mean, you got, whatever you build Linux on your hardware.
Well-
And then copy over the configs,
Yeah, the problem is-
Data, rather than.
The problem is they didn't want any downtime, because we're talking a multi-billion-dollar business. This was a mining company in Brazil. They couldn't shut down operations.
Okay.
And the environment had been in place for decades. So you didn't just have standalone apps. Everything was interconnected. So if you wanted to move this server with this app on it, it didn't have just one app. It may have had 3 apps and 2 databases.
And you depended on
And
connectivity or something else.
some other garbage. You couldn't just move it. You had to move everything related to it.
Right. But most, do you think that most of that stuff would be on a, layer above the kernel? You think you could just move the databases and all the files?
But that probably would have taken a lot longer time period.
Well, it doesn't always work that way because some of your apps are only certified by the vendor to work with a certain version of the operating system.
Right.
And we ran into a lot of that. That and apps that were written in-house and the people that wrote them are long gone, years and years ago.
They're probably statically compiled against the libraries on that machine.
Or no source code anymore. Or vendor code where the vendor doesn't exist anymore.
All the
You run into
network-
that a lot.
still had to deal with Lilo, if you're talking Suzy 9.
Yeah, we had ran into a couple machines that had Lilo. Yeah.
And to bring me some memories back to that.
Oh, nightmares. When I first started with Linux, it was 1993 when I was stationed in England, and Linus was still at the University of Helsinki, and there was no distribution of Linux. You downloaded the kernel from the University of Helsinki FTP site, and you downloaded the GNU tools, and you rolled your own. And I can't tell you how many hard drives I trashed with Lilo. The very first versions of Lilo would nuke your drive in a heartbeat. It was buggy as could be. I was so
It's the worst
happy
thing.
when Grub came out.
It's the worst thing when you see L-I and then it stops.
Yeah.
Ah!
L-I, nothing.
Yep.
I'm glad I missed that boat. We got
But we're
two.
better for it.
Believe you me, there've been a lot of lost nights that you don't have to deal with it.
Came up with this after the Riser FSCK fiasco.
Not. Oh, that is.
The dry run. Okay.
Yeah. That's working.
That's it. Cool. Thank you. I just removed 4 terabytes last week. Surprisingly, it took me 3.5 days.
Internally?
Internal. I did all the network upgrades a year ago to gig, so makes things so much nicer.
Yeah, we just got through copying 800 terabytes a day from one set of servers to a new set.
A new set? Wow.
That took
What?
a long time.
Was that across country? No?
In the same data center, but we were constrained to a bonded 4 gigabit bond.
Oh!
We didn't have 10 gig capabilities.
Or fiber or, huh,
Yeah.
wow.
I guess on Saturday, I was, imaged 3 systems that I was just trading out hardware, and I was just imaging to keep the backup of it. Last one, it was sitting on top of I had a USB drive sitting on top of the case.
It just
Wire?
vibrated off?
No, I was like, I don't know, doing something, and I bumped the wire, and it slid off, hit the floor, and
Yep.
so I had to do that.
USB 2 or USB 3?
Yeah, well, USB 2 for that one.
I find that I'm due for my hard drive swaps. I try to do them every 3 years. Because it's what, the mean time is what? It's either gonna fail in 6 months or 5 years.
Yeah.
I figured if I'm in the middle, I'm gonna be okay. I haven't decided whether to go with SSD for my OS drive yet.
Do it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Do it, do it, do
Yes,
it,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
do it.
I
All
just-
these love it.
I just got this the other day.
Yeah.
Samsung Pro drives.
The first thing I did was crack it open and pull the hard drive and put an SSD in it and an MSATA. And I've got Linux on the MSATA and Windows on the SSD. And 5, 6 seconds it's booted.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep. Kind of like the old days when you threw RAM and stuff and everything worked better.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of RAM. You're putting ROM in it.
Exactly.
Download more RAM.
No, those Samsung Pro drives are fast.
Yeah.
840?
They're good.
Yeah.
Get
That's
the
the new
pros
one?
though. Don't,
Yeah, get the
don't
Pro.
get the non-pro, get the 830 versus the 840. 'Cause
Really?
They use is like half speed, you know, kind of.
Mm.
The pro drives are like,
They're trying to be cheap,
like
they
500 meg per second.
And
they're really fast.
trim's included in the kernel anymore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you install from scratch.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't just clone it over. I've seen so many people complaining that the clone tool doesn't come with the SSD, and I said, that's for a reason. You don't want to do that.
The 830s came with Ghost. And I've done it, it works okay. But if you do that, the problem is you get like block alignment issues or whatever, so you have to run you can run a tool that fixes it.
Yeah.
Basically, a real-time.
You know, there's something about doing it right the first time. It just goes.
Yeah, but sometimes
There's
it's
nothing like a fresh install.
Yeah, I was
Fresh,
talking
crisp
to,
install in the morning, yes.
I was talking to Darby down at Computers to Go, and he put SSDs in all of his point of sale systems, which he can't upgrade because it's locked to Vista. But he says it was like 20 seconds to a browser
Even
just to
doing
boot
image on that.
But now it's just like boot, 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 boot.
these systems are built with the i7-4770Ks, like the top end Haswell's now. Those things are just really fast. I'm like really surprised. I've got like 2400 in it.
Well, my latest project is for kind of like a client of mine, and I'm trying to virtualize DOS.
Good luck.
DOS box. Isn't there like a box for that?
There is. But I have to replicate printers because the software is only designed for LPT.
Another one of those.
Right. So VirtualBox does not support LPT. I could probably do it with KVM, right? VMware, I don't remember if that supports LPT or not, because it's sort of like, why virtualize something that no one's going to use? So
Legacy stuff that they
Legacy.
have to support
But
forever.
I did get a copy of PC-DOS 2000, so that's Y2K compliant, which I know is what he's using because I installed it originally. And the app is a DOS-based point of sale.
Yeah.
There's nothing faster that they tried to go with a Windows version, just is
Oh,
not as
no.
fast. Just doot, 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 boom.
Yep.
Anything with a GUI, you always get the mouse involved, and it just
I
too
remember
slow.
when the banks first started putting it, you could always tell the bank converted to Windows because the lines were longer. And when you look around and you see the clerk taking their hand off the keyboard, you know, I'm out of here.
So I found out that there's a program called DOS Idle because it tries to, uses the CPU all the time. So that will help you prevent DOS from trying to kill your CPU. And there's a whole bunch of USB drivers for DOS. USB to DOS, the number 2. And I have to figure out the loading sequence between config sys and autoexec for the drivers, because it's similar to the old ASCII drivers for SCSI. So I'm working through that sequence. I'm bringing some of the memories back from having to do SCSI.
One of those ultimate boot disks, because those things boot. I think there's one that I had that boot into PC-DOS.
And I think I've tried to run this software under DOSBox before, but it screwed up all the character drawing because it's
Yeah.
using ANSI art. It's not.
Yeah.
It basically looks
So-
like it's an old Clipper program, right?
Yeah.
It uses DBFs and index files and stuff like that.
The form borders and the, you
Mhm.
know, so that you bracket in the
Yep.
information so it looks like a form.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So printing is the only thing I have to deal with because you can't buy parallel port printers.
Yep.
Well, you can, but they
Yeah, you
cost an arm
can.
and a leg.
But you can get a print server.
Yeah.
Those print servers.
Print servers usually mean network.
Right.
This is DOS. Try not to. I don't want the point of sales on a network. That's the thing. If I have them as a guest, they're sufficiently cordoned off And the great thing about having those guests is I can shut the guest down, image it, turn it back on, and they don't notice it. To them, because you just do it overnight, and you have a backup chain.
Current, yeah.
Yeah.
Hot like that.
Right.
So it's been fun to revisit the DOS
Were you,
roots.
so you're on Vista, but then you have, what?
No. The Vista was another person who was doing the SSD migration. This is DOS to DOS. And you can't get hardware really to replace it unless you find an old machine. So
And do you trust that?
what led to this was because they had a printer die and I had to find a printer.
How hard, we've got like all kinds of printers like that, so how hard do you?
I took their Brother laser printer, which had parallel port on it, out of the office, which does all their check printing, and took it to the store. Then I bought another Brother, which can go in, which will work with their newer machine for QuickBooks, because they can use USB.
Are they using like laser jets, like laser fives and stuff like that?
No, but I could
Is it
use
dot
one.
matrix or what is it?
One's a HP jet. The other one's now a laser. It's a Brother laser. I like Brother because the drum is separate from the toner, and they're
See, I
usually a
like
little
the
bit
other way
cheaper on
around.
the toner
Yes.
supplies.
They have them replace all the different parts.
And from them, they haven't gone through a toner yet. It'll be a forever before they go through one. The Brother supports the Epson FX emulation. That's why it works with the software. Remember that whole FX 850?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk
So
about bringing back memories.
you got those control characters that you send out to the
Right.
printer, and I don't have to do any weird stuff. You're shaking your head, Tom. What have I gotten myself into?
Thought that was well behind us as somebody brings it up again.
I originally installed these point of sales back in 1991. So,
91?
yes.
Sort of reminds me of
Wow,
trying to
I feel
virtualize
young.
an NT machine.
I was like,
Just shoot
not even in
yourself, don't
elementary
even try.
school yet then.
Surprisingly, DOS is a little bit easier than NT to virtualize.
It's just the bootloader they use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NT loader.
I've done something like that, I just gotta remember, like, I know I like made a virtual of a boot disk that basically a boot buffer.
Well, you know a lot of people have done it because they play the old games in virtual environments.
Well,
But you
yeah.
don't print from the old game.
You don't print from old games.
That's why it works so well.
Unless
You
you're trying to print your old ASCII art files out. Whoa!
But could you,
Great, no, I'm thinking of that.
could you
SD
send, I know it
credit
doesn't have to,
portal.
you could have like a network that's just a two-node network. The printer
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
device.
We actually used to run Lantastic over there.
Oh, good grief.
Well, it was cheap at the time. And it allowed us to do a lot of things, you know?
It would work, you know. The other thing I was thinking is I'm remembering these blobs that you put on, just have a little Cat3 wire and just pull cord between.
Yeah, there's a node.
They're-
Just had to make sure
They're
that
extenders.
you were terminated on each end of the network with your coax.
Coax.
Vampire tabs.
Yep. Frozen yellow garden hose.
We were pretty high tech for the time. We need this. Okay, I'll go buy it. We actually bought a 3D6 system that looked like a pizza box. About this tall.
Yeah, I brought one of those when we had some of those.
Yeah.
That shows you.
It came with a gem operating system on it.
Yeah.
Oh, my
White.
goodness, that too.
I did not know that Gary Kildall was involved in the gem operating system. I saw Stuart Chaffee the other week on an interview show talking about Computer Chronicles. It was pretty good memories. All the Computer Chronicles are on archive.org. Every single episode. Fun to watch. So, next month come with your typing fingers ready. I came across this keyboard called the Coder's keyboard. I don't know if anybody's heard about it.
I think I've seen one.
It's got the Cherry MX switches in it, so it has a nice keyboard response. It's all backlit. You can get it in 87 or 104 keys. The keys are programmable, so you can change the control position.
It's a standard layout.
Yeah, it's a standard layout.
I was thinking as one of those, I remember a guy from Milwaukee area, Java programmer, was one of those where you
Let's see if I can
You
get
put
it.
your fingers in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave Rosser's big into that.
I like the
He's big.
mechanical keys.
Clicky.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanna feel like you're on a selector?
I just like having the tactile feedback.
There it is.
Yeah.
Looks like a regular keyboard.
That's right.
Except for the price tag.
Like the, like.
Oh, a dip switch?
How's that compared to like the, well. okay.
Mechanical keys. You remember how keyboard keys used to let out a resounding, satisfying click? Yeah. Backlit with varying 7 levels of brightness. Swappable keys, you can change it to a Vorak or whatever.
I still have a 20-pound IBM
Ooh,
steel.
the old
Yeah,
Northgate
it still
type.
works.
But it's the old style
The
plug.
springs
So.
that,
Tink.
Well, I don't have anything I can plug it into.
springs that pops out.
Yeah, because it takes that big 5.
I got an adapter.
Yeah.
I got one keyboard and an adapter.
Yeah, 2 PS2.
Yeah.
But most of my machines are USB. If I get the cache, I have to go down. Then I lose the damn thing. I love the keyboard. I just keep it because well, I can.
They make new ones of those.
Somebody breaks into the house.
So they are sold out of their initial batch.
You know, this looks like something that would show up on This Is Why I'm Broke.
It's funny, they actually say if you want to modify it, provides a strong solder joints if you want to modify this keyboard. So that's pretty cool.
Built like they used to be.
I still like the buckling spring better than the cherry, so.
It's hard to find decent support anymore.
I've got the cherry brown in my keyboard upstairs.
Oh, there's the
They're the
keycap
s-
yanker.
The spring, it doesn't, it's got, it's kind of bouncy. Those, I've got like a Wise terminal that has those.
There, that's the one I've got.
Yeah, that's like one.
It doesn't look very appealing to me because sometimes I like to type one-handed while I'm doing something else.
I tell you, I
Not
was
that.
fortunate for me, completely got rid of my carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
I no longer have it.
Yeah.
This
Worth
slows
every
down
bit.
my typing. I was getting nasty pains in my arm.
Sure
I've
that's from
used this
typing?
type of keyboard since 1993.
Cool.
So, I swear by it. It's a 67% reduction in your fingers, because you never do this to reach the enter key. The enter key is right here, where your thumb is, and your fingers only travel about this far. And nobody will use your freaking computer. Because they'll be like,
Can I use your computer? No, thank you.
So it's kind of like a security measure, I guess. I've had a few people type on it, they just sort of go,
Where the heck is?
takes a while. But
Look at that.
that one is fully programmable. I have a foot switch as well, to switch on the numeric keypad, which is on the right-hand side.
Where are the arrow buttons on that thing?
Arrow buttons are down over here and over here.
They're on both sides?
Well, you got left and right, up and down, right?
Left is on the left side, right?
Let's go to the actual site. Now available an advantage linear feel. They must have changed the switches. some people who've made like a sphere where you type like this, where you hold it like a ball.
That does not sound good at all.
Well, I know,
It's usually
you
more
move
of the
your finger,
wearables,
like
though.
there's four,
Yeah.
each finger has a four directional.
It's more like stenography.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to learn the motions to do specific characters.
I mean, that thing took me 3 weeks to get used to it, but
If it takes the pain away, it's worth every bit.
right. So, the black one I have is the second one I've owned. My white one is essentially trashed. It still works, but the escape key is bad, and I do a lot of VI, so escape gets
You
used a lot.
swap the,
The case is cracked. It actually, my white one went back to the factory 3 times for refurbishment and cleaning. The black one has been back once for an arrow key problem.
you just buy, you can buy the switches and just put the switches in.
The function keys were a separate item. They're not the same. They are rubber membrane type
Oh.
switches. Up
But
here at
those
the top,
those.
they're in a separate bank by themselves. So that whole bank comes out. But yeah, I mean, if I call them up and say I need service, I just send it back in the box. It's like $50 for service. No, it sounds expensive, but I
Oh,
don't.
it's-
If
it's
I
probably the
type
thing
all
you
day
touch
on
the
that thing.
most.
Hmm?
It's the thing you touch the most.
Yeah, I mean, trivia, this is the same keyboard they used in the Men in Black film. They spray painted all of them black because they only had white available. So enough people saw them and wanted them, and they came out with a black model. They have a silver model as well. But that's a weird enough keyboard. A lot of people use the Microsoft, and I don't think that one is as good.
That ergonomic one they have?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crap.
Then they have
Is it all membrane buttons and stuff on it?
No,
this one.
no, it's just, so your hands are like this, like,
The idea is to not have to do this with your hands, right? Is to just to be more natural in how your wrists are placed when you're typing, right?
I like them down a little bit too. I don't understand why people like prop their keyboards.
Yeah,
up
you
to
shouldn't
that.
do that.
That seems crazy. Like, I like to have it like tilted a little bit towards the back.
And you see, the Microsoft one had that where it was built up on the end where you'd be typing down. Now we're getting into keyboard geeks, so. Next month,
Weird
Pal,
keyboard.
Panline Food, Kung Fu. So,
Panline
be
Food.
there. Thanks. Thanks for the watchers at home.